Hi, I have a little confession to make. I have been indulging in procrastination over the last couple of weeks because I had all these plans of things I wanted to make, things I wanted to sew, and I literally had lists. I had this little notebook I carry around with me when I go to work, I go into the office, because I like to get my ideas out of here and onto the page so I don't spend the whole day and my work day obsessing about them, which is a huge waste of time. So I have these lists where I've got everything I have wanted to make for like summer, for autumn, winter, for my holiday, and I just felt a little bit overwhelmed because since I figured out my personal style, I've also been trying to reassess the kind of things I want to make. Like, I know where there's wardrobe gaps, but I want to make clothing that suits me and suits my proportions. So I've been having a little deep dive on the Thread Loop app and looking also at some of the other sewists who have similar body shape to me and seeing what suits them. And I found a few sewing patterns that I would like to try out, but I haven't had the courage to start those yet because I've also been procrastinating about my next project. And I had decided I was either going to make one, a blazer, or two, a replica, kind of replica of a jacket that I had in my 20s, which was kind of a military style khaki green canvas field jacket. It wasn't green, it was brown. It was a brown canvas field jacket, and I loved that thing. And I bought the Itch to Stitch Delaware jacket sewing pattern a while ago, probably like early last year, with the intention of making that because that was actually a very similar style to that jacket. So I thought, just, cut to the chase, bite the bullet, let's make this jacket. So just to get off my procrastination wagon, I've decided to cut that out. So I've got it on my cutting table, i.e. my ironing board. But I wanted to show you something. I ended up deciding to go with a heavyweight canvas as the main fabric, but instead of like a khaki army green, I'm going with this vibrant kind of emerald green. Got it at Spotlight. I do have to say though, I put it through the wash to pre-wash it, and some of the edges frayed significantly. So I cannot speak to the quality of this fabric, but I figure, look, it'll be a wearable toile if anything. So just got to give it a go. Sometimes you just have to dive in, right? Even if the quality of the fabric doesn't appear to be that good. But as I was cutting this out, I realized that it actually was quite a thick fabric, and those areas such as the collars, the collar, the cuffs and pocket flaps where you're sewing two layers together and turning them right sides out, it might get a little bit bulky in the seam. So I considered using a different lighter weight fabric for the inner cuffs, collar and the underside of the pocket flaps. And I remembered I had a tiny remnant of this amazing Marimekko cotton. It's a medium weight cotton that I used many years ago to make my tamarack jacket in the exact same fabric. So I've got literally this much. And I just checked, and I think I might just scrape by with those pieces. So 2 top pockets, 2 waist pockets, inside collar and inside cuffs. So I think it's going to work out, and I think this will make this project more exciting for me and give it a little bit of hidden pizzazz and make it more me as I am now, rather than trying to relive my 20s. So that's what I've been working on. And I do have so many more plans. I do want to talk about some of the sewing patterns that have been intriguing me recently in terms of what I think will suit me. But I also have potentially another holiday in the works for the end of the year. And I've also been kind of minorly obsessing about what I'm going to wear on that holiday. So there's lots going on, as you can see. And I just got to figure out what my sewing priorities are. So it's been a whole work day since the previous clip, and I was inconveniently distracted by work. But what I wanted to do was sit down with you and have a February update, because we haven't had one of those yet, have we? And I have a lot to fill you in on. It's been a really busy February. I'm fully aware that it's March already, but yeah, I have a whole heap of things to talk to you about in my notebook. And yeah, I just want to catch up. So first though, I need to go deal with some other demanding things, because life is life and life keeps lifing. So I will come back to you. Oh my goodness. Wow. Ooh, we're a little wonky, aren't we? We are a little wonky. Is that better? That's not better. This is the problem, you see, when you have an ironing board as your studio table. Is that what we're calling it? See, that's wonky too. I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to deal with a little wonky me. It's fine. But I am back. Lifed, I am back. You have my full attention now. And now I'm going to give you the update from February, because, as I said, lots happened. I've had to write it all down because, I mean, when you get to your 40s, who can keep track and remember all these things? Perimenopause is perimenopausing, and brain fog is a real problem. But here we go. I need to take these off and change my glasses, because that's a thing now too. Anyway, I am rambling. So I've written it all down because lots happened. I went to Melbourne Fashion Week, which is actually called Melbourne Fashion Festival. And it was great. I decided late last year that I was going to go because I'd never been before, and I'd always kind of like lurked online and had a look at what was available. I mean, what was showing. And I'm not a huge fashion girly. I prefer more the sewing community side of fashion, where you get to dictate what's trendy, or where the sewing community dictates what's trendy or what's trending in sewing patterns. I kind of feel like they're more my tribe, as opposed to the global fashion industry where trends are dictated by fashion houses. I do find it interesting, don't get me wrong, and I get a lot of inspiration. It's a huge source of inspiration for me, but yeah, just had never actually engaged with it in real life before. So I really enjoyed it. I decided to go to one of the runway shows that appealed more to my sense of fun and colour. And so the runway show I bought tickets for was called Joywear Runway. Okay, now please excuse me, I'm actually going to read off my phone. So the designers that were featured on the Joywear Runway show were Camilla, who I consider more of like a high-end high street resort wear designer, rather than a kind of like independent designer. And I might be wrong in that, that's just my public perception of that. So it was Camilla, and then several designers I'd never heard of before. But as I said, I'm no expert. But we've got Fool, Gary Bigeni, by Josh Jean, Linda Jackson. Everyone's heard of Linda Jackson. She is a very famous Australian designer from, I think, the 80s and 90s. We also have Leo Lynn, Nixie Killick, Raina, Romance Was Born, 6X Pam, or 6X PAM, Vincent Lee, and Yukana. So they said to celebrate 30 years of the Melbourne Fashion Festival, they introduced two new unique runway concepts on the opening night. And the first was Joywear Runway. which was a bold celebration of colour, self-expression, maximalism, and the mood-lifting power of fashion, which all appealed to my sense of fashion as well. So I'm going to show you a few videos that I took on the night of the runway show while I'm talking to you about my experience of it. As I'd never been before, I didn't know what to expect because as I said, I'm not exactly a fashion person, but I decided to go with a friend and colleague, Virginia, who is just lovely and she likes to experience new things as well. So we went after work, and as we were going to the Joywear runway, I decided to choose some clothes from my handmade wardrobe that were probably the most colourful or joyful. It was also a really warm day, so I was kind of restricted in what I could choose because I have some quite joyful clothing, but it's not seasonally appropriate. So I decided to wear my new blue linen pants that I made in January and a green linen shirt I made a while back as well. And I just thought that contrast to the blue and green and the vibrant colours were just a good option for the show. So we rocked up, and outside the venue, which was at the Melbourne Exhibition Centre, Royal Exhibition Centre, which is a beautiful old building up in Carlton Gardens near the Melbourne Museum. In front of it, they had the fashion forecourt, which was kind of the event space outside, and they had a few bars and little eateries, and then a few like beauty stalls and areas where you could take selfies or photos. But in the center of it was this giant blue fountain where all of the fashion people were there posing, waiting for their photos to be taken, and there were some really fantastic outfits. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't as busy with people as I had expected, but the atmosphere was friendly and relaxed, and everyone was kind of scoping out each other's outfits, but not in a critical way, more of an admiring way, which I felt was really positive and inclusive, and I didn't feel as out of place as I initially thought I would. So that was a really nice experience. But it was interesting watching the photographers go around taking photos of the fashion people. And there was one photographer, she had this full-on gimbal set up strapped to her body, and I think I was in the moment more mesmerized by that than I was by some of the outfits. But it was just really nice seeing people express themselves in a joyful, fun, kind of weird and wacky way, which is what you want to see, don't you? I mean, you kind of, I don't know about you, but I get really tired of seeing everyone dressing the same. And yeah, we had a really nice time. The fashion show, it started like 45 minutes late, and it was quite hot in the hall, in the exhibition hall where it was held. But once it got going, it was really nice. We had back row seats, so even though we had the cheap seats, we still got to see everything, which was great, and I didn't expect to have such good view. part of the spectacle for me was actually looking at the audience and seeing what they were wearing. And one attendee, this man in this fabulous white outfit with a little hat, had a dog handbag, like a white leather dog handbag. He just looked fabulous. I thought, you know, what presence, and fantastic handbag. Anyway, so that was a really fun experience, and I'm glad I went. I'm not sure I'd go again. I think there would have to be a specific runway show that I'd want to see. They did have lots of other events, such as talks about fashion and sustainability and things like that, but they tended to be during the day when I was at work and I couldn't go. So that was a little disappointing. But, you know, if you were more interested and invested and part of the industry, I think they were really good events and really good location, easy to get to. So yeah, it was really good fun. Other than that, I've had friends from Switzerland visiting who I haven't seen in like 20 years. And so I've just been spending some time catching up with them at different occasions throughout the last couple of weeks. And it's been really, really lovely. I think the last time I saw them was that they invited us to spend Christmas with them in Switzerland, and I got to experience my very first white Christmas. So that was really lovely. So it was nice having a wander down memory lane and catching up over the last 20 years. And yeah, it's just really lovely. So it's also been really busy at work. I've had my contract extended at work in this different role, which is exciting. I'm really pleased about that. So things have picked up work-wise. So I actually haven't had as much time to be creating and making and knitting and sewing as I thought I would. I started out the year with a big bang and started like producing a lot of stuff. As you saw, I've done a lot of sewing. And there's things I want to show you next, but first I've got to go deal with my ham. So bear with me. I'm back. The ham is sorted. It's back on again. Don't ask me how to cook a ham. I've never cooked one before. I'm literally just following the instructions on the packaging and then adding the stock and all the bits and pieces. And then later on I'm going to put it in the oven. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but hopefully it should last us quite a few meals. Anyway, back to making, sewing, what I've been working on, that kind of thing. So February went quickly, and I know that it's because it is a shorter month, so come on, Sian, get a grip. But I just feel like time just slipped away. Lots happened, and so I actually, like I said, haven't been as productive as I had initially hoped. I had lots of plans in my little notebook about what I wanted to sew. I'll even show you. I had my January plans. Oop. And I had my February, much more pared back February plans. And then I had autumn winter sewing plans, which I've erased half of them because I've changed my mind about. But what I actually worked on was, and you probably, if you've already seen my shorts, you would have seen I made some shorts from a lovely kind of minty green vintage tablecloth. I'll put a photo here if you haven't seen it. I had this tablecloth in my stash for a little while now, and I was going to make a dress, but I've come to the realization I don't really want to wear a lot of dresses, and I just don't tend to wear the ones in my wardrobe. So I figured a pair of shorts for these warm, steamy days would be most appropriate. And I made a cute little pair of shorts which were underlined by some cotton lawn. So I used the Friday Pattern Company Saguaro set pants pattern for the shorts because I've made those trousers probably 3 or 4 times now, and they are a go-to for my elastic waist linen pants for summer. So I thought I'd just, tried and true. I shortened the leg length to what I thought would be an appropriate length, and I cut out the pattern pieces based on that pattern. And I think it turned out really quite well. In hindsight, what I would probably change next time is I would have shortened the leg length just a little, just a smidge, so it was slightly above the knee as opposed to on the knee. And because I was limited with my tablecloth, with my pattern piece placement, I probably didn't make the best choice for the back leg pieces because when I saw myself in the videos, I wasn't as pleased as I ought to have been with that, with the placement that I chose. So I'm still going to wear them. I'm not disappointed in the final object. But you know, when you make something, you always look back on it and think, oh, how could I have made that better? You know, it's that part of that internal critical dialogue that is just then projected onto things that you make. So, but I'm really pleased with those shorts. I've already worn them a couple of times working from home on hot days, and I know I will definitely wear them on my holiday in Cambodia in the middle of the year. So I'm really pleased with those. I've made something useful and something for a holiday and something cute. So I'm happy with that. So the other thing I finished, and I'm not sure I've talked about it on a monthly roundup, is the Archer shirt that I made out of this fantastic dark chambray with yellow and pink neon flecks or slubs throughout the fabric. And I have been wanting to make the Archer shirt pattern for a long time, since before it didn't have the expanded size range, but they've since brought out the expanded size range, and so I just decided to bite the bullet and make the shirt. I don't know why previously, but I was a bit intimidated by making shirts. I think in my head I just built it up to be this really long, complex process, and one that, I don't know, there's just a mental hurdle. I have made shirts in the past. I've made like the Cali shirt dress by Closet Core patterns. So I've made shirts with a yoke before, so it's not so much the yoke, I think it's the collar. I've really struggled to neatly and calmly sew a collar stand and collar to a shirt in the past. But clearly all those trials and tribulations paid off, because when I made this shirt, I didn't appear to have those problems. So it was actually a relatively easy sew, and the only things I was umming and ahhing about in the construction were whether or not I wanted to add a pocket and where I was going to do contrasting top stitching. So I spoke to my Instagram fam and you guys helped me out with that. So thank you very much. And I ended up doing the top stitching on the collar and adding a chest pocket with some contrasting top stitching there and on the cuffs as well. One thing, I'm just going to get my notebook. One thing I would potentially change in the past, and I just need to find, here we go, I've got my notes. Two things I would change in the future if I were to make this pattern again are the collar did appear to be rather small, a petite collar, not so much the fit, but more the actual collar flaps. I don't know what they're called. The collar. I would prefer that they be a bit larger and a bit more impactful in future. So if I were to make it again, I would make those bigger. I'd draft a slightly different size collar. And the other thing is the cuffs. I don't know why. I followed all the instructions, but the cuffs, when you do up the button, they gaped quite significantly. So much so that I could slide the cuffs to about here on my forearm. It's not a huge issue. It's not going to stop me wearing it because I do tend to roll up my sleeves anyway when I wear shirts. And if that's going to bother me, I just won't button the cuffs. So yeah, I think also the size I chose, I sized the chose. I chose the size based on my measurements, and I probably would size down next time. It is quite a roomy shirt. I did notice one thing I am not 100% convinced about in terms of the design of the shirt is that the sleeve head and the arm side are designed so that it's a really nice neat fit when you got your arms down. But if you raise your arms up, the shirt rides up with you, with your arms, and it's not so much constrictive, it's just a little awkward. And I know there are different shirt patterns have designed the arm side and the sleeve head differently, like a deeper or shallower sleeve head. And in this particular pattern, the sleeve head is quite deep. If it was shallower, so it wasn't as high, like a mountain peak, and it was more of a rolling dale, then you would have more freedom of movement in the arms. So that was just one of the things that I would potentially like to see in the next shirt pattern that I decide to use. So yes, I made that. I was really happy with it. I've only worn it once because it's summer. It's not been conducive to wearing long sleeve shirts. But another thing I ended up making was I have this beautiful bag here. It was a gift to myself last year. I have wanted one of these since I was in my 20s, maybe 30s, when Mulberry first brought out their Alexa bag. And so I treated myself to one last year. I scrimped and saved and treated myself, and now I own it. So I'm very, very pleased with that. She needs to get a bit more wear though. But I did notice it needed a little bit of support, internal support and structure. So I decided to make myself a bag insert rather than buy one off Amazon or Temu or one of those evil conglomerates. I thought, you know what, can't be that hard. So I went Spotlight, which is probably another evil conglomerate. I don't know. I got myself some stiffened felt and I drafted up a really simple shape that kind of aligned with the shape of the bag, and took the bag measurements, etc., to draft my pattern. And I've just created a really simple insert with 4 little pockets, and I think it turned out quite well. I did struggle getting it under the sewing machine, so it looks nice and neat here on these edges. This is where it was quite difficult. But on one end, you can see that I ended up doing a bit of a blanket stitch here because I just couldn't get this curve under the sewing machine. So in hindsight, or if I were to make it again, I would probably just use blanket stitch for these end curves, and they literally don't take that long to hand stitch, and it's just as sturdy. So yeah, so that was really simple. I could potentially give you the measurements if you're interested, let me know, but really this has been designed specifically for this bag. But if you want to make one, all you need is one rectangle, which is basically this, and you need another smaller piece to cut out the ends. So you shape the ends, and then inside, I don't know if you can see, I literally just did some patch pockets. So that's one rectangle for 2 pockets, and the other one is exactly the same. So very, very simple, and it didn't take long to do at all, but it makes a world of difference to the structure of the bag and to keeping the bag nice and clean and tidy. So yes, so that was another thing I made, and that was more of a practical make rather than a fun garment make. And I actually have a fail for you. I was getting on the little knitting bandwagon of wanting to make one of those just really simple triangle scarves with a contrast color along that V. And so I found a free pattern that is very similar to a petite knit pattern, and that is I have to look it up, as I said, my memory is terrible. Simple triangle scarf. Okay, so the pattern is the simple triangle scarf by Pure Light Fiber, and it's a free pattern. You will get it if you sign up with your email address, but there is an online video tutorial, which if you just look at that on YouTube, you won't actually need to sign up for anything because it's really straightforward. It's just knowing the number of stitches to cast on at the center, and then you're doing increases either side here and an increase at either end on the right side row. So very simple. So I made this one and it looks all right, but it is, I've breathe, Sian, collect your thoughts. I have aggressively blocked this to try and prevent it from curling. This is in a 4-ply, and it's a merino yak 4-ply navy blue, and then I'm using, I think the hot pink was the same as I knit that hood out of. What was that? That was a Cascade Fibers sock in highlighter pink. That's what that was. So I dropped a stitch on the edge here, so I've got to go back and fix that, which I thought I'd do after I blocked it, but I'm not happy with it. So this is why I'm calling it a fail. I feel like it's just too flimsy. It's just going to continue rolling up. There we go. It's just going to keep curling up. You see what I mean? It's kind of like the curl of a flower petal or a leaf. And I'm losing the impact of the contrast yarn. So I think I'm going to frog it, and I might make it either in a heavier weight yarn and a looser gauge. I don't know. Don't trust me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm literally just playing it by ear and trying to figure it out. But I think I might do it in a slightly heavier weight yarn in a looser gauge. Perhaps a tighter gauge would be better. I don't know. I just feel like if it's a tighter gauge, it's probably going to curl more. I don't know. I really want one. I think they're super cute. I want to jump on that. I want to be on this bandwagon. But maybe I do need to actually make it a bit bigger. Maybe it's too small. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. I do like to problem solve, so I'll probably just try and figure it out. Have a go and figure it out. So yeah, so that's a fail, but I do think the final result is pretty cute. And it's fine if I have to frog it. No problem there. Anyway, so I made that, and I'm really sorry. I keep looking at the screen. I'm just aware my battery's going to die soon. So there is 2 more things I want to talk to you about. One is another knitting project. I have started working on another colorwork sweater, one I've wanted to make for a while now, and that is the porcelain yoke sweater. So you've probably seen the famous porcelain sweater, which I'll put a photo here, but there's also a round yoke, knitting in the round version. Here we go, porcelain yoke sweater that I really liked the look of, and so that's the one I'm making. And for once in my life, I'm actually using the yarn that is recommended in the pattern. I'm just using a slightly different colorway for the main color. So I am using Peer Gynt's Tin Peer Gynt by Sanna's Garn in the colorway 1021, which is a very pale grey, natural grey marl as the main color. I think the pattern uses the kind of like creamy white, but I thought it was a little bit too yellow undertone for me. And for the blue, I'm using the recommended colorway, which is 6046. And it's a beautiful kind of like ultramarine blue. And for the mohair, I'm using the recommended mohair for both. So whatever's recommended in the pattern, that's the color and the type of mohair I'm using. I bought the yarn almost a year ago, so I thought it was about time I started the project, and I'm quite enjoying it. It's knit on 4mm needles, which is kind of my happy place. Anything smaller and I get impatient. And I think the fabric is knitting up quite beautifully. I would say that the mohair, the Sanders Garn mohair, is probably not my favorite. It's a little bit scratchy for me, and if I was to start over, I probably would have ordered some Knitting for Olive mohair. I find that Knitting for Olive is my sweet spot for mohair. It's really lovely. It just has the right kind of softness and no itch for me. So this is not so much itchy, it's just a little bit more rustic than I'm used to. That might also have something to do with the fact that the Peer Gynt is considered a relatively rustic yarn as well, but it's actually not that rustic. So I'm thinking it's probably the mohair, and the mohair is the Tin Silk mohair, which is a blend of 57% mohair, 28% silk, and 15% wool. So I don't know what it is, whether it's the mohair or the other, but ultimately I do think I would change out the mohair if money was no issue. So I'm just slowly working on this. It's been too hot really to knit, but I did want to start it before autumn because I don't think I'm going to be as prolific with my knitting this year as I have been in previous years. And that's only because I already have so much in my wardrobe that I just don't have enough space for anymore. And you know, when you start something new, a new hobby, you're like really passionate and you just want to do it all the time and make all of the things. And then you've made loads of things, so you don't have as much, whether it be drive or, yeah, you don't have as much drive after a couple of years, but also you're very conscious that you've already got some beautiful clothes and that you don't necessarily want to overconsume. So I am finding myself pulling back from the consumption a bit. I do tend to get caught up in the inspiration phase of a project where you're like, yes, I want to make this. Do I have the stuff I need? Do I have the fabric or the yarn? And if I don't, I need to get it now. Yeah, I get a little bit obsessive about that kind of stuff. So yeah, but I'm kind of in that kind of like lower consumption phase of my making journey, which I'm quite enjoying. I already have loads in my stash. I'm very fortunate to have that, to have curated my stash as it is. So yes, I probably won't knit as much this year. If I'm all flushed, it's because I've just gone and taken the ham out of the pot, scored it, glazed it, and put it in the oven. I promise this won't be a cooking show. I'm just very excited. It smells amazing. Anyway, so yes, what were we talking about? There's been a little break because my camera battery died, so I had to recharge it. So I've been doing other things, but I'm back now. So we just talked about the porcelain sweater, I believe, and I was rambling on about probably not making knitting as much this year, just because I already have an abundance of amazing knits, which is true. So the other thing I have completed this month is I needed to mend a pair of pajama shorts for my husband. I don't know about you, but in our household, the first thing to go on a pair of pajama pants is the back seam. So I did some mending. I'm going to put a photo up because the actual pair are on the line. And this is what I did. I used some iron-on interfacing, the kind of like really soft kind, not the stiff kind, to secure the fabric on the inside of the shorts before then attaching some scrap pieces over the tear. It was an L-shaped tear coming out from the center back seam. And then I just used the triple stitch zigzag over those pieces of fabric to create this beautiful piece of mending. And hopefully it should at least give the pants another maybe 6 to 12 months of wear before they again blow out somewhere else. So yeah. Oh, I did mend, and I didn't take a photo of it, but I did make a zero waist dress a few years ago, and I put some really cute buttons on, which are, I don't know if you can see them, these little sakura flower ones from Arrow Mountain buttons, and unfortunately they just kept popping off, so I ended up replacing all of the buttons on the button bands with boring navy blue ones from my stash. So those buttons have lasted well, but I just took all of them off, and maybe I'll use them more as a decorative thing on something else in the future. But they've seen quite a few washes already. They are made of wood, but they're still holding up really well, so they'll get some use in the future. And that is pretty much it in terms of what I've actually like mended, made, finished, and things like that. The only other thing that I've really been working on is the Delaware jacket, which I spoke to you about at the beginning of this probably extremely long video. But as I said, I had a lot to catch you up on. I do want to talk about my sewing plans and the patterns that I have put on my to make list, but I feel like that should be another video. This has mainly been a bit of a February catch-up, so I think I'm gonna end it there for now, but I appreciate you joining me today and hearing about my February update. And of course it won't be long before there's a March update, because we're already in the first week of March. And if you're lucky, I'll even show a photo of the finished ham at the end of this video, if you're lucky. And that's if I remember it, which probably means I'm gonna have to write it down somewhere. But I really appreciate your time and attention today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. It's a long weekend here in Melbourne. We have a Monday Labor Day holiday. So if you are in Melbourne, I hope you have a wonderful long weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, bye.